One such story is the story of the people of the ditch, a story of believers who were given an impossible choice, abandon their faith or face the fire. But they chose faith, they chose Allah, and their story was so powerful that Allah preserved it in the Qur'an for generations to come. In Surah al-Buruj, Allah speaks of the people of the ditch, the fire, and those who sat around it. They had lit a blazing fire and watched the believers being persecuted. But what crime had these people committed? What had they done to deserve such cruelty? The Qur'an gives us the answer. They had done nothing except believe in Allah, the Almighty, the Praiseworthy. But this was not the beginning of their story. Before the trenches were dug, before the fires were lit, there was a young boy, a powerful king, a magician, and a believing man. And through the journey of one young boy, an entire people would discover the truth. This is the story of the people of the ditch. Long before the trenches were dug, there lived a powerful king, a king who wanted absolute control over his people. And at his court, there was a magician. The magician had grown old, and knowing that his time was coming to an end, he said to the king,
I have grown old. Send me a young boy, so that I may teach him.
The king agreed, and a young boy was chosen, a boy who would soon become part of a story far greater than anyone could imagine. Every day, the boy would travel to the magician, learning the secrets he was being taught. But on the road, something unexpected happened. Along the way, the boy came across a monk. The monk was a man devoted to the worship of Allah. The boy stopped and listened to his words. Something about what the monk said touched his heart. So the boy began stopping there every day, listening to the monk, before continuing on to the magician. But this created a problem. The boy began arriving late to the magician, and the magician would beat him for being late. The boy was caught between two worlds, one teaching him magic and worldly power, the other teaching him faith in Allah. And slowly, the boy's heart began to change. He had not yet realized it, but he was standing at the beginning of a journey. One day, something happened that would change the boy's life forever. A huge beast appeared on the road, and it blocked the way of the people. No one could pass. The boy stood there, watching the people helplessly waiting, and in that moment, he wanted to know the truth. Was the path of the magician greater, or was the path of the believing monk greater? So the boy picked up a stone, and he prayed, "O Allah, if the way of the monk is more beloved to you than the way of the magician, then remove this beast so that the people may pass." He threw the stone, and the beast was killed. The people were finally able to continue on their way. The boy returned to the monk and told him what had happened. But instead of celebrating, the monk gave him a serious warning.
My son, today you have reached a level beyond me, and soon you will be put through a great trial.
If that happens, do not reveal who I am. The boy's journey was changing. He had begun to understand that the power he was witnessing did not belong to him. It belonged to Allah. And soon, people began coming to him with their illnesses. The blind, those suffering from serious diseases, and others in need of healing. But the boy never claimed the power for himself. He would say,
I do not cure anyone. It is Allah who cures.
And with Allah's permission, people were healed. But these miracles could not remain hidden forever. Among those who heard about the boy was a close companion of the king. He had lost his eyesight, and when he heard about the young boy, he came to him carrying many gifts. He said,
If you can restore my eyesight, all of these gifts will be yours.
But the boy replied,
I do not cure anyone. It is Allah who cures. If you believe in Allah, I will pray to Allah, and He will cure you.
The man believed in Allah, and Allah restored his eyesight. He returned to the king and sat beside him as he had done before. The king looked at him in astonishment and asked,
Who restored your eyesight?
He replied,
My lord.
The king was furious. He said, Do you have a lord besides me? The man answered,
My lord and your lord is Allah.
The king could not tolerate these words. He seized the man and tortured him until he revealed the boy's identity. The boy was brought before the king. The king said,
I have heard that you have become so skilled that you cure the blind and heal the sick.
But the boy replied,
I do not cure anyone. It is Allah who cures.
The king's anger grew. He seized the boy and began to torture him, and eventually, the boy revealed the monk's identity. The monk was summoned. He was ordered to abandon his faith, but he refused. The king's demand was clear: renounce your faith or face death. The monk chose faith, and the king carried out his threat.
You defy your king. How dare you bring your humble lies into this sacred hall? Guards, seize him!
Then the king's companion was brought before him, and he was given the same choice. He too refused to abandon his faith, and he too was killed. Now, the king turned his attention toward the boy. The boy was about to face the greatest trial of them all. The king could not break the boy's faith, so he ordered his men to take him to a mountain and told them, Take him to the top. If he abandons his faith, leave him. But if he refuses, throw him from the mountain. The men took the boy up the mountain, but the boy turned to Allah and prayed, O Allah, save me from them in whatever way you will. And the mountain shook. The men fell. But the boy survived. He returned to the king. The king was astonished. What happened to your companions? The boy replied, Allah saved me from them. The king refused to give up. He ordered his men to take the boy out to sea and throw him into the water if he refused to abandon his faith. Again, the boy turned to Allah, and again, Allah saved him. The boat overturned, the men drowned, and the boy returned safely. So the boy told him,
You will never be able to kill me until you do what I tell you.
The king asked, What is it? The boy replied, Gather the people in one place, tie me to the trunk of a tree, then take an arrow from my quiver, place it in your bow, and say, In the name of Allah, the Lord of the boy, then shoot me. Only then will you be able to kill me. The king agreed. He gathered the people and tied the boy to a tree. Then he took the arrow, placed it in his bow, and said,
In the name of Allah, the Lord of the boy.
He released the arrow. It struck the boy, and the boy died. But what happened next was something the king had never expected. The people cried out,
We believe in the Lord of the boy.
The king had tried to silence the boy, but instead, the boy's death caused an entire people to believe in Allah. And now, the king faced something far greater than one believing boy. He faced a people who would no longer surrender their faith. The king had failed to silence the boy. Instead, the boy's death had awakened faith in the hearts of an entire people. The people had declared, We believe in the Lord of the boy. The king was furious. He had lost the loyalty of his people, and now he wanted to force them back. So he gave a terrible command. Trenches were dug, deep trenches, at important places along the roads. Then fires were lit inside them, blazing fires, so intense that their flames rose into the darkness. The king's order was clear. Anyone who refused to abandon their faith would be thrown into the fire, and the believers were brought before the trenches, one after another. They were given a choice: return to the religion of the king, or face the flames, but they refused. They would rather lose their lives than lose their faith. The fire burned before them, yet their hearts remained firm. They knew that this life was temporary, but their faith was worth more than life itself. And then, a believing woman came forward, carrying her young child in her arms. As she approached the fire, she hesitated, not because she doubted Allah, but because she was a mother. She looked at her child, and for a moment, her heart trembled. Then, by Allah's permission, the child spoke. "Mother, be patient. You are upon the truth." The mother became steadfast, and she chose faith rather than abandoning the truth. This was the moment that revealed the true meaning of steadfastness. The fire could destroy their bodies, but it could not destroy their faith. The king believed that fear and death would force the believers to surrender, but he was wrong. They had discovered something greater than this world, a faith worth more than life itself. The Qur'an remembers them, not for the wealth they possessed, not for the power they held, but for the faith they refused to abandon. Allah says, "Woe to the makers of the ditch, the fire supplied with fuel, when they sat around it and witnessed what they were doing to the believers." And then Allah reveals why they were persecuted. They had no other reason to hate them, except that they believed in Allah, the Almighty, the Praiseworthy. That was their only crime. They believed in Allah, and they remained faithful when faith came at the greatest possible cost. The tyrant had the army, the fire, and worldly power, but the believers had something he could never take from them: their faith. And this is the lesson that remains for us today. Faith is not proven only when life is easy. It is proven when holding on to the truth becomes difficult, when the world pressures you to compromise, when fear tells you to surrender, when standing for what is right comes at a cost. That is when faith reveals its true strength. This was the story of the people of the ditch, a story of faith, courage, sacrifice, and steadfastness. May Allah make us among those who remain firm upon the truth, no matter how difficult the test becomes. Ameen.